The massive alien ship moved through space like a dark metal mountain. Its hull was covered in sharp spikes and weapon ports. Inside the ship, Commander Kale 9 stood in front of a large screen showing a small blue planet. His red eyes glowed as he studied the information on his display. "These creatures call themselves humans," said his second officer, Vex 7. "Our scouts say they also go by another name, Grimspawn." Kale 9 nodded slowly. His people, the Vorthak, had conquered 17 star systems. They were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Their bodies were twice the size of most aliens, covered in natural armor plating. Their claws could cut through steel. Their teeth could crush bones. When other species saw the Vorthak coming, they either surrendered or died. "What do we know about their fighting abilities?" Kale 9 asked. "Strange reports, Commander. They have advanced weapons and ships, but they seem peaceful. Too peaceful. Our war computers cannot understand it." Kale 9 frowned. In his experience, peaceful species were either very weak or very dangerous. There was no middle ground. "Prepare the landing party. We will meet these Grimspawn face to face." 2 hours later, their shuttle landed on the human colony world of Kepler 442b. The colony was built into the side of a mountain, with metal buildings connected by covered walkways. Strange plants grew everywhere, and the air smelled different from any world Kale 9 had visited. A group of humans waited for them at the landing pad. Kale 9 stepped out first, followed by 6 of his best warriors. Each Vorthak carried plasma rifles and wore combat armor. They were ready for battle. The human leader stepped forward. He was much smaller than the Vorthak, with black hair and dark eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform with no weapons visible. "Welcome to Colony 7, the human said with a smile. "I am Captain Dae-ho Kim. We are honored to meet the famous Vorthak warriors." Kale 9 studied the human captain. Dae-ho showed no fear, even though he was surrounded by alien soldiers who could kill him in seconds. This was either very brave or very stupid. "I am Commander Kale 9. We come to learn about your species, to decide if you can join the Galactic Alliance, or if you are a threat that must be removed." Dae-ho's smile never changed. "Of course. We have prepared a meeting room where we can talk comfortably. Please follow me." As they walked through the colony, Kale 9 noticed something odd. The humans they passed looked at the Vorthak warriors with curiosity, not terror. Children peeked out from doorways and waved. Adults nodded politely and went about their work. "Your people do not seem afraid," Kale 9 observed. "Should they be?" Dae-ho asked. The question surprised Kale 9. Every species they had ever encountered showed immediate fear when meeting Vorthak warriors. It was a natural response to superior predators. They entered a large building with white walls and bright lights. The meeting room had a long table surrounded by chairs. Several other humans were already there waiting. "This is Dr. Hyojin Park, our science officer," Dae-ho said, pointing to a woman with short black hair. "And this is Lieutenant Bo-ram Choi, our security chief." Kale 9 looked at Bo-ram with interest. She was clearly a warrior, but she carried only a small sidearm. Her hands were relaxed, not ready for combat. Either these humans had never faced real danger, or they had something else that made them confident. "Please sit," Dae-ho said. "Would you like something to drink? We have several beverages that are safe for Vorthak biology." The fact that they had already studied Vorthak biology impressed Kale 9. These humans were more prepared than they appeared. As they sat around the table, Dr. Hyojin began showing them information about human colonies and technology. The displays showed impressive ships, advanced computers, and thriving cities on dozens of worlds. "Your species has spread far in a short time," Kale 9 said. "How do you defend so many worlds?" "We prefer to avoid conflicts when possible," Dr. Hyojin replied. "But we can protect ourselves when necessary. Peaceful species usually become extinct," Vex 7 said bluntly. "The galaxy is full of predators," Lieutenant Bo-ram laughed. "Oh, we know all about predators. We live with them every day." Before Kale 9 could ask what she meant, a sound came from somewhere deeper in the building. It was a scratching noise like massive claws dragging across metal. The sound was followed by a low, rumbling growl that made the table vibrate. All 6 Vorthak warriors jumped to their feet, weapons ready. Their combat instincts screamed that a dangerous predator was nearby. The sound came again, louder this time, followed by what could only be described as a roar of frustration. The humans, however, remained seated. They looked slightly amused by the Vorthak reaction. What is that creature? Kale 9 demanded, his rifle pointed toward the sound. Oh, that? Captain Deho checked his watch. That would be Jin Woo's pet getting restless. He has been locked up all morning while we prepared for your arrival. Pet? Fek 7 repeated the word like it was a foreign concept. Another scratching sound echoed through the building, followed by a series of deep, threatening growls. Kale 9's scanner showed massive life signs beyond the wall. Whatever was making those sounds was large, powerful, and very much alive. Yes, pet, Dr. Hyojin said calmly. Jinwoo found him as an egg and raised him from birth. They are quite attached to each other. The scratching became more urgent, and now there was a banging sound as if something very large was throwing its body against a door. The Vorthak could hear metal groaning under tremendous pressure. Is it dangerous? Kale 9 asked, though his scanners had already given him the answer. The creature beyond the wall registered as a Class 5 threat level. Such creatures were usually found on death worlds where even the Vorthak feared to land. Dangerous? Lieutenant Boram tilted her head thoughtfully. I suppose he could be if someone threatened Jinwoo, but mostly he just likes to play fetch and take naps in the sun. The banging sound came again, stronger this time. Whatever was behind that wall wanted out, and the barrier might not hold much longer. Captain Deho sighed. I suppose we should let Jinwoo know his buddy is getting impatient. He should be here any moment to introduce you properly. Kale 9 and his warriors exchanged glances. In all their battles across the galaxy, they had never encountered anything quite like this. These humans spoke of keeping a deadly predator as a companion, as if such a thing was perfectly normal. The door to the meeting room opened, and a young human male entered. He looked to be barely an adult, with friendly eyes and a casual manner. He wore simple work clothes and appeared completely harmless. Sorry I am late, the young human said. I was finishing some repairs in the outer section. I hope Baram has not been too much trouble. As if responding to his name, the creature behind the wall let out another roar, this one almost welcoming. Jinwoo smiled. I think he knows I am here. Would you like to meet him? Kale 9 stared at the young human who had just entered the room. Jinwoo looked completely ordinary. His scanner reading showed no enhanced muscles, no hidden weapons, no combat modifications. Yet this unremarkable human claimed to own whatever massive creature was making those threatening sounds behind the wall. Meet him? Vec 7 repeated, his weapon still raised. That creature sounds like a war beast from the death worlds of Sigma 7. Jinwoo looked confused for a moment, then laughed. War beast, Baram? Oh no, he is much too gentle for that. He would not hurt anyone unless they tried to hurt me first. The scratching sounds grew louder, and now they could hear something that sounded like whimpering. The fearsome roars had changed into what almost sounded like whining. He gets upset when he cannot see me for too long, Jinwoo explained, walking toward the wall where the sounds were coming from. We have been together for 3 years now, ever since I found his egg. Dr. Hyojin cleared her throat. Perhaps we should explain more about our colony before Jinwoo introduces his companion. Commander Kale 9, your people come from worlds where the strongest survive by dominating the weak, correct? Of course, Kale 9 said, though he kept his weapon ready. That is the natural order. The strong rule, the weak serve or die. Humans see things differently, Captain Deho said. When we first came to this world, we found it was already inhabited by many dangerous creatures. Most species would have found a different planet or destroyed the native life forms. What did you do? Kale 9 asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer would not make sense to him. We made friends with them, Lieutenant Boram said simply. The concept was so alien to Vorthak, thinking that Kale 9 almost dropped his weapon. Friends? With predators? Why not? Jinwoo asked, still standing near the wall. Behind it, the whimpering sounds continued. Just because something is dangerous does not mean it is evil. Baram was alone when I found him. His family had died in a volcanic eruption. He needed someone to take care of him. You took care of a predator, Fek 7 asked in disbelief. I fed him, played with him, taught him right from wrong, just like you would with any child. The banging on the wall became more insistent. Whatever was behind there was growing more agitated by the minute. Jinwoo, Dr. Hyojin said gently, I think you should let Baram out before he breaks through the door on his own. Jinwoo nodded and walked to what the Vorthak had assumed was a solid wall. As he approached, they could see it was actually a reinforced door painted to match the wall. The door was thick metal with multiple locks and warning signs in several languages. The signs say, authorized personnel only, and extreme danger. Vex 7 translated, reading the alien text on his display. Yes, Jinwoo said as he began unlocking the door. We put those up after some visitors from the Centauri system panicked and tried to shoot Baram. He did not understand why they were afraid of him. Kale 9's tactical computer was flashing red warnings as Jinwoo's hands moved from lock to lock. The life signs behind the door were enormous. Whatever was in there was at least 4 meters tall and weighed several tons. Its heat signature suggested a metabolism that could only belong to an apex predator. Jinwoo, Captain Daeho said, perhaps you should warn our guests about Baram's appearance before you open the door. Oh right, Jinwoo said, pausing with his hand on the final lock. He is quite large and he looks scary to people who do not know him. But he is really very sweet. Just do not make any sudden movements at first. He needs time to decide if you are friendly. Decide if we are friendly? Kale 9 repeated. We are the ones with the weapons. Weapons will not help you if Baram thinks you are a threat, Lieutenant Boram said matter-of-factly. Trust me, we learned that the hard way during our first week here. Jinwoo turned the final lock. The door made a heavy clicking sound and immediately the scratching stopped. There was a moment of absolute silence. Then the door began to open inward, pushed by something on the other side. Kale 9 and his warriors raised their weapons, but Captain Daeho held up a hand. Please, no sudden movements. Baram is very protective of Jinwoo. The door opened wider and Kale 9 got his first glimpse of Jinwoo's pet. A massive head emerged first. It was covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. The skull was the size of a small vehicle, with a jaw that could easily bite a Vorthak warrior in half. Rows of teeth, each as long as Kale 9's hand, gleamed white in the meeting room lights. But it was the eyes that made Kale 9's blood freeze. They were intelligent eyes, calculating and aware. This was not some mindless beast. This creature was studying them, measuring them, deciding whether they were prey or threat. The rest of the creature followed its head through the doorway. It stood on 4 legs, each ending in claws that could tear through starship armor. Its body was easily 4 meters tall at the shoulder, with a long tail that had sharp spikes along its length. Wings were folded against its back, wings that looked large enough to carry this monster through the air. Kyle 9's computer was screaming warnings at him. This creature matched the description of a void drake, one of the most dangerous predators known to exist. They were found only on death worlds where the gravity was so high and the environment so harsh that even space marines in powered armor feared to land, and this human boy was keeping one as a pet. The void drake's glowing eyes swept across the room, taking in each of the Vorthak warriors. Kyle 9 could feel the creature's gaze like a physical weight. Every instinct he had told him to run or fight, but he was too stunned to do either. Then Jinwoo stepped forward and scratched the monster behind what must have been its ear. There is my good boy, Jinwoo said in the same tone someone might use with a small dog. Have you been patient while I was working? The void drake, this creature of nightmares that could destroy entire cities, made a sound that could only be described as purring. It lowered its massive head and nuzzled against Jinwoo's chest like an oversized cat. Baram, we have visitors, Jinwoo said, gesturing toward the Vorthak warriors. These are Kale 9 and his friends. They come from far away to meet us. The dragon turned its attention back to the aliens. Its eyes were still intelligent and calculating, but now there was something else in them. Curiosity, perhaps. It tilted its head, studying them the way a scholar might examine an interesting artifact. He wants to know if you are staying for dinner, Jinwoo translated, as if he could read the creature's thoughts. Baram loves meeting new people, but he gets worried when strangers carry weapons around me. Kale 9 looked down at his plasma rifle. His hands were shaking, though whether from fear or amazement he could not tell. Slowly, very slowly, he lowered the weapon. The void drake's posture relaxed slightly, though its eyes never left the Vorthak commander. Good, Jinwoo said, scratching the dragon's neck. He likes you already. Would you like to pet him? His scales are incredibly soft once you get used to the texture. Kale 9 stared at the young human in complete bewilderment. 3 years of military training, 17 conquered worlds, and thousands of battles had not prepared him for this moment. A human child was offering to let him pet a void drake, and the most terrifying part was that he was actually considering it. Kale 9 stared at Jinwoo's outstretched hand. then at the massive void drake that was somehow acting like a tame animal. Every tactical program in his computer was telling him this was impossible. Void drakes were extinction-level creatures. They were the reason entire star systems remained uninhabited. No species in the galaxy had ever successfully domesticated one. Yet here was this ordinary human boy, treating the most dangerous predator in known space like it was a friendly dog. I do not understand, Kale9 said slowly. How is this creature not killing everyone in this colony? Jinwoo looked genuinely confused by the question. Why would Baram kill anyone? He has plenty of food, a warm place to sleep, and people who care about him. Why would he want to hurt us? Because that is what void drakes do, Vex7 said, his weapon still raised despite his commander's example. They are apex predators. They exist to hunt and kill. That is like saying Vorthak exist only to fight wars, Dr. Hyojin said gently. Just because someone is capable of violence does not mean they choose violence. Baram, apparently bored with the conversation, walked over to a corner of the room and lay down. The floor shook slightly under his weight. He curled up like an enormous cat, wrapping his spiked tail around his body, and closed his eyes. He is tired, Jinwoo explained. He was up late last night helping me fix the water recycling system. He is very good at reaching places that are too small for humans but too dangerous for our repair robots. The dragon helps with repairs? Kale9 asked weakly. Of course. Everyone in the colony has jobs to do. Baram's job is to help with maintenance and to keep the razor wolves away from the children's playground. Razor wolves? Vex7's scanner immediately began searching for new threats. There are razor wolves on this planet too? Oh yes, Lieutenant Boram said cheerfully. A whole pack of them lives in the forest north of the colony. Lovely creatures, very intelligent. They help our hunters track game animals, and in return we share our food with them. Kyle9 felt like his understanding of the universe was crumbling. Razor wolves were pack predators with diamond-hard fangs and the ability to move faster than most ground vehicles. They were known to hunt in coordinated groups that could take down armored vehicles. You share food? With razor wolves? He managed to say. Why not? Captain Deho asked. They were here first. It seemed only fair to make an agreement with them. But they are predators. So are we, Dr. Hyojin said. Humans are omnivores. We eat both plants and meat. That makes us predators too, technically. Jinwoo walked over to where Baram was resting and sat down beside the dragon's massive head. The creature opened one eye, saw Jinwoo, and made that purring sound again. Jinwoo leaned against the dragon's snout like it was a comfortable chair. When I first found Baram's egg, Jinwoo said, it was in a cave on the far side of the mountain. His parents had been killed by a volcanic eruption. The egg was cold and would have died without help. So you took it? Kale9 asked. I could not just leave it there. It was a baby that needed help. Jinwoo scratched behind one of Baram's horns. I brought the egg back to the colony and kept it warm. Dr. Myung-soo helped me figure out what it needed to hatch properly. Dr. Myung-soo? Our animal specialist, Captain Deho explained. He has been studying the local wildlife since we arrived. He knows more about the creatures on this planet than anyone, including how to care for void drake eggs. Apparently, Vex7 said dryly. It was not that difficult once we understood the basics, Jinwoo said. Baram hatched after 3 months. He was about the size of a house cat, but he ate constantly. Growing dragons need a lot of food. Kale9 tried to imagine a house cat-sized void drake. Even as a baby, it would have been incredibly dangerous. Was he not aggressive? All babies are aggressive when they are hungry or scared, Jinwoo said. But Baram learned quickly that I was not going to hurt him. I fed him, kept him warm, and played with him every day. By the time he was big enough to be dangerous, he already thought of me as his family. And the rest of the colony accepted this. There was some debate at first, Lieutenant Boram admitted. Some people thought it was too risky. But Jinwoo proved that Baram could be trained and socialized. Now he is one of our most valued colony members. Valued how? Kale9 asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Well, he is excellent security, Captain Deho said. No hostile creatures come anywhere near the colony when Baram is patrolling the perimeter. He is also incredibly strong, so he helps with heavy construction work, and he can fly, which makes him useful for aerial surveys and rescue missions. Plus, he is very good with children. Dr. Hyojin added, he is gentle and patient, and he seems to understand that human youngsters are fragile. As if summoned by the mention of children, the sound of young voices came from outside the building. Through the large windows, Kale 9 could see a group of human children playing in a courtyard. They were running around, laughing and chasing each other in some kind of game. What made Kale 9's blood freeze was what they were playing with a pack of creatures that his scanner identified as Shadowstalkers bounded through the courtyard alongside the children. Shadowstalkers were stealth predators, capable of becoming nearly invisible and moving without sound. They were assassins by nature, patient hunters who could track prey for days before striking. These Shadowstalkers were playing tag with human children. Those are, Kyle 9 started to say, the pack family's pets, Jinwoo finished. They adopted the pack last year when poachers killed the adult Shadowstalkers for their invisibility organs. The young ones had nowhere to go. One of the Shadowstalkers bounded up to the window and peered inside, its large, curious eyes fixed on the Vorthak warriors. It tilted its head, studying them with obvious intelligence. A small human girl, perhaps 6 years old, ran up beside the creature. She was completely unafraid of the predator that could kill her in an instant. Instead, she patted its flank affectionately. "That is Su Jin," Jinwoo said. "The Shadowstalker's name is Whisper. They are best friends." The little girl waved at the aliens through the window. Whisper, apparently deciding the visitors were harmless, shimmered and became nearly transparent before bounding away to rejoin the game. "This is impossible," Vex 7 muttered. "Predators do not behave this way. They do not form emotional bonds with other species." "Maybe predators from your worlds do not," Dr. Hyojin said. "But every creature is different. Intelligence and emotion exist in many forms throughout the galaxy." Barum opened both eyes and lifted his head, apparently sensing that his friend Jin Woo was discussing something important. The dragon's gaze moved from the Vorthak warriors to Jin Woo, as if asking a question. "It is okay, boy," Jin Woo said, scratching the dragon's chin. "They are just surprised to meet you. Not everyone is used to being around dragons." Barum made a sound that might have been amusement, then rested his head on the floor again, but his eyes remained open, watching the visitors with alert intelligence. "He understands what we are saying, does he not?" Kale 9 asked. "Of course," Jinwoo said. "Barum is very smart, probably smarter than most humans. He just cannot talk the way we do, but he communicates with you. We understand each other. After 3 years together, we do not need words most of the time." Kale 9 looked at his warriors. They were all staring at the dragon with expressions of complete bewilderment. Their training had not prepared them for this. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for this. "Commander," Vex 7 said quietly, "our mission parameters did not account for this scenario." Kale 9 nodded slowly. They had come here to evaluate whether humans were suitable for Alliance membership or needed to be eliminated as a threat. "But how do you evaluate a species that keeps apex predators as beloved companions?" Outside, the children's laughter continued, mixed with sounds that could only be described as alien animals playing. Through the window, Kale 9 could see more creatures moving through the colony grounds. His scanner detected dozens of life forms, many of them registering as dangerous predators. Yet there was no fear, no violence, no sign of the natural order that governed every other world in the galaxy. "I need to see more," Kale 9 said finally. "I need to understand how this is possible." Captain Daeho smiled. "Of course, Commander. Jinwoo, would you mind giving our guests a tour of the colony? I think they would find it educational." Jinwoo stood up and patted Barum's flank. "Come on, boy. Want to show our new friends around?" The void. Drake rose to his feet with surprising grace for such a large creature. He stretched like a cat, extending his claws and spreading his wings briefly before folding them against his back. Then he walked to the door and looked back at the Vorthak warriors, waiting patiently for them to follow. Kale 9 took a deep breath and followed the dragon outside, wondering what other impossibilities he was about to witness. As they stepped outside the meeting building, Kyle 9 felt like he had entered an alien dream. The colony looked normal enough. Metal buildings, paved walkways, gardens with earth plants growing alongside native vegetation. But it was the inhabitants that defied all logic. A group of teenagers was playing what appeared to be a ball game in an open area. Running alongside them were creatures that Kale 9's scanner identified as razor wolves. These were not the savage pack hunters described in Vorthak military databases. These wolves were jumping and barking playfully, trying to catch the ball with their mouths. "Those are the razor wolves you mentioned," Kale 9 said to Lieutenant Bo-Ram, who had joined their tour. "Yes, that is most of the pack. They love games, especially anything involving running and jumping, very athletic creatures. One of the razor wolves caught the ball and immediately brought it to a teenage boy with spiky black hair. The wolf dropped the ball at the boy's feet and sat down, tail wagging, waiting for the next throw. That is Hyunwoo, Jinwoo explained. He has been training with the wolves for 2 years. They have taught him how to track and hunt, and he teaches them human games. The wolves train humans? Vex7 asked weakly. Of course, they are excellent hunters. We can learn a lot from them about moving quietly through the forest and reading animal signs. Barum walked beside Jinwoo, his massive claws clicking on the paved path. Colonists they passed waved and called out greetings to both the boy and his dragon. Children ran up to pat Baram's flank or scratch behind his horns before running back to their games. Are there no safety protocols? Kale9 asked. No restrictions on contact between humans and these predators? We have some basic rules, Jinwoo said. Do not surprise a sleeping creature. Always let them smell you first, never get between a parent and their young. Common sense, really. They passed a workshop where a woman was repairing some kind of electronic device. Beside her, a creature that looked like a cross between a bird and a lizard was holding small tools in its beak and passing them to her when she held out her hand. That is Engineer Taemin Lee, Jinwoo said, and her partner Storm. He is a thunderhawk, very intelligent birds, and their eyesight is perfect for detail work. The thunderhawk noticed the Vorthak warriors and tilted its head, studying them with bright golden eyes. It made a musical chirping sound that almost sounded like a greeting. Storm wants to know if you need anything repaired, Taemin called out, looking up from her work. He loves fixing things, especially if they have small parts that require precision handling. Your bird? Fixes machines? Kale9 asked. He is better at it than most humans, Taemin said proudly. Thunderhawks have natural tool use abilities. Storm learned to work with human technology within 6 months of joining the colony. As they continued walking, Kyle9 began to notice something else. The creatures they encountered were not just tame. They were integrated into human society. Each animal seemed to have a role, a purpose, a job to do. They were not pets in the traditional sense. They were partners. Jinwoo, he said slowly. How many different species live in this colony? Let me think. Counting the humans, probably about 20 different species, though the number changes when we find new creatures that need help, or when some of our friends decide to move on to start their own families. 20 species living together peacefully? Well, mostly peacefully. Sometimes the frostcats and the heat lizards argue about the temperature settings in the shared buildings, and the night prowlers prefer to sleep during the day, which can conflict with the solar butterflies who are most active in bright sunlight. They passed a medical building where a sign in multiple languages announced, Dr. Myung-Soo Hwang, interspecies. Medical care. Through the window, Kale9 could see a human doctor examining what appeared to be a small dragon-like creature, while its worried human companion waited nearby. Dr. Myung-Soo treats both humans and animals? Lieutenant Boram nodded. He says medicine is medicine regardless of species. Bodies have more similarities than differences. Suddenly Barum stopped walking. His head lifted and his nostrils flared as he sniffed the air. A low rumble came from his throat, not threatening but alert. What is it, boy? Jinwoo asked, placing a hand on the dragon's neck. Barum looked toward the forest that bordered the colony. His eyes were focused on something the humans could not see. He senses something, Jinwoo explained to the Vortak. Probably another dragon passing through the area. Barum likes to know when his cousins are nearby. There are more dragons on this planet? Vex7 asked with alarm. Oh yes, several families of them live in the mountain caves. They are wild, not domesticated like Baram. But they are not hostile unless threatened. A shadow passed overhead, and Kale9 looked up to see a creature gliding through the sky on massive wings. It was similar to Baram but larger, with darker scales and more pronounced spikes along its spine. That is probably Grandfather Thunder, Jinwoo said, shading his eyes to look up. He is the oldest dragon in the region. Sometimes he stops by to check on Baram. The wild dragon circled once, then landed in an open area just outside the colony's buildings. It folded its wings and made a series of rumbling sounds that echoed across the settlement. Baram responded with his own calls, and the two dragons seemed to be having a conversation in their ancient language. What are they saying? Kyle9 asked, fascinated despite his fear. Grandfather Thunder is asking if Baram is happy and healthy. Jinwoo translated. Baram is telling him about the repairs we did yesterday and about meeting you. The wild dragon is checking on him. Family is important to dragons. Even though Baram lives with humans now, he is still part of the dragon community. The conversation between the two dragons continued for several minutes. Grandfather Thunder's attention turned to the Vorthak warriors and his eyes narrowed as he studied them. He wants to know if you are friends or enemies, Jinwoo said quietly. I would suggest standing very still and showing that you mean no harm. Kale 9 slowly lowered his weapon and placed it on the ground. His warriors followed his example. The massive wild dragon watched this display, then made what sounded almost like an approving grunt. Good, Jinwoo said. He has decided you are acceptable guests. Grandfather Thunder spread his wings and launched himself into the air with surprising grace for such a massive creature. Within moments, he had disappeared beyond the mountain peaks. That was a diplomatic meeting, Dr. Hyojin said, appearing beside them. The wild dragons serve as ambassadors for the non-domesticated creatures in this region. Grandfather Thunder was evaluating whether your presence poses a threat to local wildlife. And his conclusion? Kale 9 asked. You passed the test. As long as you respect the local customs and do not threaten the colony's inhabitants, you will be welcome in this territory. They continued their tour, visiting workshops where humans and various creatures worked side by side, gardens where earth plants grew alongside alien vegetation, and recreational areas where interspecies friendships flourished. In one area, Kale 9 saw something that made him stop and stare. A group of small children, none older than 8 or 9, were playing with creatures that his scanner identified as baby storm phoenixes, aerial predators known for their plasma breath and lightning-fast reflexes. The young phoenixes were no larger than house cats, with brilliant red and gold feathers and tiny wings that sparkled with electrical discharge. They were playing a game that involved flying in complex patterns while the children tried to predict where they would land next. Are those not incredibly dangerous? Kale 9 asked. Storm Phoenix young do not develop their plasma breath until they are at least 2 years old, Dr. Hyojin explained. And these babies were orphaned when poachers destroyed their nest. The children have been caring for them. When they grow up and develop their full abilities, they will probably leave to start their own families in the wild. But they will remember the kindness they received here. Adult storm phoenixes sometimes return to help with aerial surveys or to assist with forest fire prevention. As the sun began to set, they returned to the main colony buildings. Streetlights came on automatically, but Kel 9 noticed they were not alone in illuminating the walkways. Creatures that glowed with their own internal light moved through the colony, providing additional illumination. Glow moths, Jinwoo explained, seeing his curious look. They are nocturnal, and their light helps humans navigate safely after dark. In return, we provide them with flower gardens that bloom at night. Everything here serves multiple purposes, Kale 9 observed. That is how communities work, Captain Deho said, joining them as they reached the main building. Everyone contributes according to their abilities and everyone benefits from the contributions of others. But these are predators, Vex 7 protested. Natural enemies. They should be competing for resources, not cooperating. Competition is one survival strategy, Dr. Hyojin said. Cooperation is another, and often more effective in the long term. As they prepared to return to the meeting room, Kale 9 looked back at the colony. In the gathering darkness, he could see the gentle glow of the glow moths, the graceful flight of night-hunting creatures, and the warm lights of human homes where families of multiple species were settling in for the evening. 3 days had passed since the Vorthak delegation first arrived at the human colony. Kale 9 sat in his temporary quarters staring at the report he was trying to write for High Command. How could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he make his superiors understand that everything they knew about predator species was wrong? Outside his window, he could see the daily life of the colony continuing. A group of teenage humans was playing soccer with a pack of razor wolves who had learned to use their paws to kick the ball. An elderly human woman was gardening while a massive rock crawler, a creature that could tunnel through solid stone, carefully moved heavy boulders to create new flower beds. Soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he called. Jinwoo entered, followed by Baram, who had to duck his head to fit through the doorway. The young human looked concerned. Commander Kale 9, Captain Deho asked me to check on you. You have been alone in here for many hours. I am trying to write a report for my government, Kel-9 said, but I do not know how to explain what I have seen here. Bahram moved to the window and peered out, watching the activities in the colony courtyard. The dragon made a soft rumbling sound that Jinwoo seemed to understand. Bahram says you look sad. Jinwoo translated. He wants to know if something is wrong. Kel-9 looked at the massive predator who was somehow capable of caring about the emotional state of an alien stranger. Jinwoo, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you not afraid that someday Bahram might change? That his predator instincts might overcome his training? Jinwoo sat down in a chair across from Kel-9, while Bahram curled up on the floor beside him. I think you misunderstand something important, Commander. Bahram is not trained to suppress his predator instincts. He is simply expressing them in a different way. What do you mean? Bahram is still a predator. He still hunts and kills when necessary. When dangerous creatures threaten the colony, Bahram drives them away or fights them. When our hunters need to track prey animals for food, Bahram helps them find the best targets. But he does not hurt humans. Why would he? Humans are not his prey. We are his family, his pack. Predators protect their pack. Kel-9 considered this. In Vorthak society, strength was demonstrated by dominating others. But perhaps that was not the only way to be strong. Jinwoo, may I ask you another question? Yes. What would happen if someone tried to hurt you while Bahram was nearby? Jinwoo's expression grew serious. That would be very bad for that person. Bahram is gentle with people he trusts, but he is absolutely ruthless with anyone who threatens his family. As if understanding the conversation, Bahram lifted his head and looked directly at Kel-9. The dragon's eyes held a clear message. Jinwoo was under his protection, and that protection was absolute. So humans have not eliminated the danger of these predators, Kel-9 said slowly. You have redirected it. Exactly. Instead of fighting against their nature, we work with it. The result is that we have the most effective security force in the galaxy. A chime sounded from Kel-9's communication device. Commander, came Vex 7's voice. You need to come to the landing pad immediately. We have a situation. Kel-9, Jinwoo, and Bahram hurried outside. At the landing pad, they found a crowd of humans and their animal companions gathered around a new spacecraft that had just landed. It was smaller than the Vorthak ship, but Kel-9 recognized the design immediately. Kraxan raiders, he said grimly. Pirates and slavers. Captain Deho approached them, his expression calm but alert. They claim to be traders, but their ship's weapons are powered up and our scans detect slave cages in their cargo hold. How many? Kel-9 asked. 12 armed raiders. They are demanding tribute and threatening to attack the colony if we do not comply. Kel-9 looked around at the colonists. He saw no panic, no fear. The humans were simply going about their business as usual. But he also noticed that their animal companions were acting differently. The razor wolves had formed a loose perimeter around the landing area. The shadow stalkers had become nearly invisible, positioning themselves for ambush. Even the normally gentle creatures like the thunderhawks had taken flight and were circling overhead. Captain, Kel-9 said, you should evacuate your people. Kraxan raiders are vicious fighters. They will kill anyone who resists them. Thank you for the warning, Commander, but we can handle this. With respect, Captain, you cannot. 12 trained pirates with modern weapons against civilian colonists? This will be a massacre. Captain Deho smiled. Commander, I think you still do not understand what you are looking at. The airlock on the raider ship opened, and 12 heavily armed Kraxan emerged. They were reptilian creatures, larger than humans but smaller than Vorthak. Their leader wore elaborate armor decorated with the bones of his victims. Humans. The leader called out in heavily accented universal. You will give us tribute. Food, fuel, and slaves, or we will burn your colony to the ground. Jinwoo stepped forward with Bahram walking beside him. The sight of the massive void drake gave the pirates pause, but their leader quickly recovered. Nice pet, little human. The Kraxan leader sneered. But one dragon cannot stop 12 warriors. You are right, Jinwoo said calmly. One dragon probably could not stop 12 warriors. He whistled. A clear musical note that echoed across the colony. The response was immediate and terrifying. Bahram roared, a sound that shook the ground and echoed off the mountain walls. From the forest came answering roars as wild dragons launched themselves into the sky. The pack of razor wolves emerged from the buildings where they had been hiding, their eyes glowing with predatory hunger. The shadow stalkers materialized from seemingly empty air, surrounding the raiders without a sound. The Thunderhawks descended from above, their talons extended and electricity crackling between their feathers. But it was not just the obviously dangerous creatures. The rock crawlers burst from the ground beneath the raiders' feet, trapping them in a circle of living stone. The glow moths dimmed their lights, plunging the area into an eerie twilight that favored the nocturnal hunters. Even the gentle storm phoenix chicks had gathered nearby, their tiny eyes glowing with inherited fury at the threat to their human families. In less than 30 seconds, the 12 Kraxan raiders found themselves surrounded by over 40 apex predators, each one perfectly positioned for maximum lethality. The pirate leader's weapon trembled in his hands as he looked around at the circle of death that had formed around his team. This is impossible, he whispered. Actually, Dr. Hyojin said, stepping forward with a data pad, this is just Tuesday. We get raiders about once a month. Word gets around eventually. Jinwoo looked at the terrified pirates with something that might have been pity. You can leave now, he said simply. Or you can explain to 43 very protective predators why you threatened their families. The Kraxan leader dropped his weapon. We will leave. We meant no harm. Of course you did not, Captain Daeho said pleasantly. Have a safe journey. The pirates retreated to their ship so quickly they almost trampled each other. Within minutes, their vessel was launching into space, fleeing as fast as its engines could carry it. As soon as the ship disappeared, the predators relaxed. The Razor Wolves went back to playing with the children. The Shadow Stalkers faded back into invisibility. The dragons settled down for afternoon naps. Kyle 9 stood in stunned silence, watching normal colony life resume as if nothing had happened. Now do you understand? Captain Daeho asked gently. I think I am beginning to, Cal 9 said slowly. Humans are not apex predators yourselves. No, we are not. You are something much more dangerous. You are apex befrienders. Dr. Hyojin laughed. I like that term. May I use it in my research papers? You have weaponized friendship itself, Cal 9 continued, his voice filled with awe and terror. Any creature, no matter how dangerous, becomes your willing ally. You do not conquer your enemies. You make them into your family. It is more efficient than warfare, Lieutenant Boram said, and much more pleasant. Kale 9 looked at Jinwoo, who was scratching Baram behind the horns while the dragon purred contentedly. Jinwoo, what would happen if someone tried to invade Earth itself? Earth? Jinwoo looked confused. But Earth has thousands of colonies, each with their own adopted creatures, plus all the wild animals that humans have befriended over the centuries. How many creatures are we talking about? I do not know exactly. Millions? Billions? Dr. Hyojin would have better numbers. Kale 9 turned to the scientist. Dr. Hyojin, our last census counted approximately 15 billion domesticated predators across all human worlds, plus uncounted wild creatures who consider themselves allies of humanity. 15 billion apex predators, Cal 9 repeated weakly. That is just the large ones, Dr. Hyojin added helpfully. If you count the smaller species, the number goes up significantly. Cal 9 sat down heavily on a nearby bench. His understanding of galactic power structures was completely shattered. The Vorthak military had conquered systems through superior firepower and tactical skill. But humanity had created something unprecedented. A multi-species empire built not on dominance but on mutual affection. Commander? Vex 7 approached, his expression dazed. I have been monitoring communications from our ship. High Command is asking for our status report. What do we tell them?